So what is synthetic data? I think we're best served by thinking about training self-driving cars, actually, because the analogy is good, and it's also a real place where synthetic data ends up being used. But one way of training a self-driving car is you collect a whole bunch of data from real people driving cars, right? You have a camera that looks at the road. You record how fast the car was going and how the driver reacted, and so on and so forth. And you can collect millions of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours of video data doing this. And it's kind of interesting, actually, sticking with the self-driving analogy. The companies that have kind of really been able to push ahead on self-driving, they have a massive data advantage, okay? And so, Tesla, everybody knows Tesla. They've been collecting this data for the longest time. And arguably, they have the best sort of autopilot capabilities, right? Not perfect, to be clear, but the best autopilot capabilities. And it's because of this data advantage, okay? Other people don't come close because they don't have nearly as much of this data. So that's real data, right? What does synthetic data look like in that context? Well, in that context, synthetic data looks like, what if we just set up a simulator that looked like the real world, right? And drove a simulated car, through this real world and collected all that data. This data is potentially quite valuable. It's not perfect because it's not the real world, but it's still valuable, and it gives you the ability to collect data without the constraint of saying, I need a human being to drive the car around. Okay, so that's synthetic data and real data in the context of self-driving. Now take everything I said, right, and replace that notion of driving a car with a human being, let's say, looking at products on a website. So I was recently, shopping for Halloween costumes for my son. It took me some time. That's valuable real data. But imagine you wanted to simulate this sort of data, right? You could have a bot, right, that pretends to be me, right? And I could go tell that bot, go shop for Halloween costume, for somebody that wants to be, whatever. And the bot, if it were built appropriately, could go do this. Now, the value of doing this with the bot is that you're not constrained to me anymore, right? I can fire up 1 million bots and do this 1 million times over, and all I'm constrained by is really compute. And compute constraints are far looser. So that's really, the analogy, that's what synthetic data really is. What are the pros and cons, right? The pros are, one, you've kind of removed this fundamental constraint of, I need a human being driving the car, or, hey, I need a human being browsing the site and adding things to their cart and checking out and whatever. You've removed that constraint because, you know what? You can fire up a bot, right? And we can fire up millions of bots, and so we remove that capacity constraint. What do we need to be cautious about? Why is it that, this needs to be done somewhat carefully? This needs to be done somewhat carefully because, again, come back to that self-driving analogy, right? If all your self-driving data were collected in, Grand Theft Auto, if you've played that video game, that's not exactly how the real world works. And you could kind of perhaps tell your car that, it's okay to slam into another car, all right? And you don't really want to train a model to think that. The point is, I need to generate synthetic data that's reasonably realistic for it to be valuable. There's been a lot of progress in doing this, and that's how I think about synthetic data.